Welcome, everyone. I'm Shah, and this is the Data Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm super excited because Daliana is here, and we're going to be talking all about her journey from working as a data scientist at Amazon to now, where she's followed by over 300,000 people on social media. And she seems to be in a different city every time I talk to her, which is one of the luxuries of working for herself. So, Daliana, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Great to be here. Hi, Shaw.
And I feel like it's easy to kind of look at your life now and people think like this girl's living the dream. She just gets to post on social media and travel to whatever city she's in. I think the first time we talked, you were in Beijing.
Yeah, I was in either Beijing or Shanghai. Yeah.
Okay, so I think you were in Shanghai and then you were in SF and now you're in New York. So you're very
Right.
much living like the influencer lifestyle. So I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people, they probably see your journey and they aspire to go on a similar journey. They want something similar for themselves. Really, what I want to get out of this conversation is learn more about what this path was like. What are some of the great things about it? What are some of the not so great things about it? Some of the details that you may not realize if you haven't gone on it before. But before getting to all that, how did this all start? What was it that got you to post on social media for the first time?
So, where did it all start? I started writing technical blogs on Medium because I felt I worked on a lot of cool things at Amazon. And in my previous company, I built a time series blog, but I couldn't take that with me. And I wanted to have something that belonged to me. So, that's why I created a time series model using public data on Zillow and then published on Medium. And that was my first viral moment. I woke up and the phone buzzes, so many notifications. I wrote a few other Medium articles after that, but it wasn't as popular at that one, but it did give me a lot of confidence. Then around 2020, I realized there are a lot of people giving bad advice about data science and career that never worked as a data scientist. So I thought I could share what's data scientists day to day like. So you'll probably see a lot of people talk about those things today, like you spend 70% or 90% of the time cleaning data. It's important to talk to your stakeholders to focus on the business value instead of doing research. So back in the day, it was refreshing for people to see those content coming from a data scientist. So that's how I got started.
I feel like there's a problem that a lot of people face that they build these really cool projects, but they can't really showcase it because it's proprietary. You know, they built it at a company.
Yeah.
So for you, you just wanted to get more visibility to some of the work that you did. So you just made this time series post. I mean, who would have thought that a time series post would go viral? It's kind of like a really,
Yeah.
sounds like a really technical project. But I feel like I've had a similar experience. My first blog post was on the Fourier transform, so very much on time series as well.
Yeah. Time series is
But
really fun. I like the
yeah,
seasonality.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun. And I guess everyone has an intuition for time series. Like we look at weather data every day and it's like applicable to so many different fields. But I feel like a lot of people, they struggle with that first post, doing that first post on Medium or that first post on LinkedIn. Why do you think that is? Why do you think so many people hold themselves back? Is this something that you struggled with before you posted your first article?
I published the article in 2017, but I remember even in my first job, that was 2015, I wanted to do something, but then I just started this job and I want to hang out with my friends. So over the weekend, I always planned to sit down for a few hours, but then always, my social life took over. And then you decided, oh, so what I'm going to write, you have this perfectionism. I finally made a decision just because I'm so tired of this disappointment in myself. I had to say no to a lot of invites, which was painful at that time. And you spend Saturday night writing code and editing your drafts, but then it's also very rewarding. And I think probably a lot of people, maybe you just haven't reached a time when you feel you need to prioritize this. And for me, I just felt if I don't write now, I hate to let another year pass by. I think there is also perfectionism. So it's not like I planned for that viral moment. I think it was because I created something that scratched my own itch. I was looking at places to rent in Seattle. I was curious about which month has the lowest rent. Is there a seasonality? So I could pick to start on that month and save money. Of course, after later on, I understand social media better. I took a lot of courses on marketing and copywriting, and then I have been creating content for 5 years. I realized, oh, of course, if you write about something that closer to people's life, especially when it's about, saving money, people want to read it. And sometimes the best content is the content you create for yourself. So right now with people I coach, I help them get over the perfectionism. I think you just feel, oh, if I create something, it's going to be online forever and people are going to judge me for that. I think we think too much of ourselves. The people tend to forget things, and you can always edit, you can change. I always worried, would someone go, because I shared my source code in R, and my biggest fear at that time is someone going there and find some bugs and then cancel me online. But none of those ever happened. So when people view your content on social media, they don't hold the mindset like, oh, I'm reviewing an academic paper. Most people look at content, even technical blogs on Medium, is because they're bored. They open the app, they're on their commute. Or if I could tell a lot of people who just getting started, is to have a more playful mindset, experiment, just like how you experiment with your data ML models.
Yeah, I think three things stuck out to what you just said. The first was that it took you 2 years from thinking I want to post content to actually posting that first blog. So I think that's a really key insight. The second thing is that the kind of key to that initial success was the realness and the authenticity of the post, like scratching your own itch. Like this was a genuine pain that you were facing. And so you just set out to solve it. But in doing that, since it was a pain that you were facing, other people were also like curious about it or facing that pain as well. So that's a natural approach that I've been taking as well, like ever since the beginning. So it's cool to like hear in other people's journey. But like this other thing of like perfectionism, I feel like everyone's afraid that, oh, what if someone sees my post and it's going to be there forever?
Yeah.
It's usually the quite opposite. Like in the beginning, you're like struggling to get anyone to see what you post. So I just find it ironic that people think that, oh, like the world's going to see this if I put it out there. But
what if I'm famous?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I feel like there are a lot of other pain points for like content creation. Like the perfectionism is a big one, but things I hear over and over again is like, I don't know what to post. I have imposter syndrome. Like, what will people think? What will people say? Maybe you face that, like working at Amazon. It's like a high profile role and people's judgments of you can make a difference in your career, or like making the time for it and things like that. Were these other things that have come up in your journey or in people that, other creators that you've come across?
I think for me, a lot of big creators I know, they usually, some of them created something, again, not planned, when viral, that kick off their journey. So they already have something that they wanted to say. And also similar for me, I didn't know, oh, how many followers I will have, just because I felt people need to hear real data science career advice from someone in the field. So by that time, I already accumulated a lot of things I really wanted to rant. And my friends are tired of my unsolicited advice, so I just shout to the void on LinkedIn. If you do want to create content online, but you haven't figured out what you want to say, what I always recommend people is just imagine there's someone 5 years younger than you, or intern on your team. What is the best advice you want to give this person? What are the 3 things you think they should definitely know? Or what are the 3 things you didn't know like 5 years ago? So speaking to this younger person, you realize you actually know a lot of things. It also help us get over the perfectionism. So you don't have to be an expert. You just need to be someone a little bit ahead of this junior person, and you will be the expert from their perspective. So sometimes instead of thinking about how can I create a perfect content, just think about what is one piece of advice that can really help one person.
It's funny that you say this, like not being an expert. and this perfectionism thing. Because just like 2 days ago, I was talking to an old colleague, and he was saying like, "This is the year I'm going to post content," and I was like, "Well, what's holding you back?" And he said, "Well, I'm not an expert. There are like people way like
Yeah.
smarter than me at this thing," and it's like exactly what you just said. Like, you don't have to be an expert. You just have to be like 1 or 2 steps ahead of your audience to be helpful to them. Because like you'll never be like an expert. Like there'll
Right.
always be someone that knows more on a topic than you.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of times actually being closer to your audience, being 1 step ahead of them as opposed to 10 steps ahead of them is actually more effective because you actually remember what it was like to be them. I mean, is that something that you've kind of experienced as well?
That's actually a great point. It's similar to how I advise people when they look for mentors within the company. So, someone's a principal engineer or a VP, they might not know how to give you advice if you're more junior or you're looking for to get to a senior role. Maybe someone just got promoted, can help you more. And to your point, I feel I navigated my content creation journey, and there's like ups and downs. So I think I can teach people a lot of kind of mistakes I made. Especially my take is if someone have done something very easy, they don't know how other people struggled, so it would be hard for them to give advice. If you think about someone's like math genius, this person might not be a good teacher. So just because you have made a mistake, you have these hiccups, so that make you a better teacher, a better content creator, because you can be in those people's shoes. And also, I feel I just recently shared this with in my recent the personal branding cohort is I believe that people are tired of the elite persona. Oh, I went to Harvard. I got an offer at Google. I think people don't find those people relatable. Sure, you're very successful. You wake up at 4 a.m. You meditate, but most of us don't do things like that. So the part that you feel insecure about might be that niche, or might be the thing that help you create a little space on the internet. Everything you feel uncertain about yourself, maybe you can use that to your advantage.
Yeah, I like that. Like turning your quote unquote weaknesses into your strengths. Like this
Right.
becomes your niche and how you differentiate
Yeah.
yourself. So we talked about some of the challenges in kind of getting started in content. And I feel like the one thing that all successful content creators have in common is that they post content. So like
Mhm.
that's like the first thing. Like you just have to show
Yeah.
up.
Right.
But I would say like beyond that, like what do you think it takes to be a successful content creator other than just the act of showing up and doing it? Are there like any other quote unquote secrets to success?
So to answer this question, I have to ask people, when people ask me this, what is your goal to create content? Do you want to be an influencer? Most of the time, a typical influencer or full-time content creators business model is they will have brand partnership, they will get sponsored to create things for them. And some other people, especially a lot of people in tech, they want to have their personal brand, so it's easier for them to get attention of recruiters, or in the future when they want to create a side hustle. Probably a lot of the audience here want to become data AI entrepreneurs. You want to be able to find your clients or attract co-founders or even investors. So there are different strategies in that. So my focus right now, I don't think a lot of my audience want to become the influencers. I know a lot of friends who are influencers. They have a lot of brand partnership. They're very successful in that. I think those type of people usually really love creating content, especially they really love creating content with a subject. So usually the brands have requirement, you want to talk about this topic, and they need to take some time to weave that into something they are good at. So for me, I done that for about a year, and I realized I can still do that, but I miss coaching people. So I don't think that's a business model sustainable for me. I'm not against that. So if there's a brand in the future reach out to me, if it's very easy for me to embed without having to spend a lot of time thinking how can I merge those to create something representing the brand and at the same time useful for my audience. To answer this question, so I recently wrote a post about a friend who has been on my previous podcast. She has about 10K followers. Her name is Susan Shu Chang. So she's also a O'Reilly writer. If you look at the content she creates, she doesn't create as a influencer, but she showed she go to conferences, she talk about machine learning interviews. So I think those are the content that help her create a network. And through the conferences she went to, she met her future manager. So when she got laid off, she reached out to this person and immediately got hired. I think maybe the metric for success is how many high quality connections, how many high qualities opportunities you have, instead of thinking too early about, oh, I want to make money from sponsorship, etc. Unless you already know I'm like Mr. Beast, I love creating content, then that's like a different path. So yeah, I think most of us, you need to think about. Another example is there are some LinkedIn posts I created have over 100K views. I speak to the masses, it went viral, but it didn't get me any clients. And when I shared something, have a few thousands of views, some of them, because I write directly to my audience, and a few people saw that and then become my coaching clients.
I feel like that's a really important distinction, because I think people who get into content creation with this kind of groundless idea of success,
Yeah.
I feel like they end up just like chasing vanity metrics, like chasing followers or chasing likes or views, and it doesn't really go anywhere. But like the way you're putting it is, before you can define what success is, you need to know what your goal is. Is your
Yes.
goal to be an influencer that you're working with brands? Is your goal to network with people so you can be robust if you get laid off, or if you want to make a career transition, or if you want to work for yourself and promote some kind of product or service? If that's your goal, success would look completely different. So like, depending on what path you're trying to go on, like these things are going to be very different. So I feel like you've kind of gone through a few different iterations. So like, what are some of the different paths? You mentioned you tried to go down the influencer route, and then you were also working like in the early days of your content creation. So like, what was success at different points of your journey? Like, how did you define it?
So when I just started, I actually didn't know exactly what I wanted. My original goal was also the reason behind creating that some medium technical blog, because I always knew I wanted to be entrepreneur, and I thought I want to have my own consulting company. So if I have those artifacts, it's easier for people to find me. So my original goal was to get clients, but I was on my H-1B visa at that time, so I couldn't really get clients or try anything kind of business related. So I thought, well, if I started to create a following, then I can solve this marketing side of the problem for my future business. So then later on, I can start to get clients. But then I guess after 2-3 years, maybe 5 years, when did I left Amazon? I think around that time, I also realized I'm not very passionate about doing technical work. So when you started to create content, you also notice your interest change. Maybe it's not like interest change, you just discover your true interest. Something you thought you wanted to do might not be the thing you actually want to do, which is a good thing. So I think I did chase follower account. I think followers account, like I mentioned, doesn't equate to success, but in the early days, it's kind of correlated to some engagements. From the engagement, you know whether your message resonate with people. But of course, if you always share memes, you share viral, you just screenshot various things on Reddit and Twitter, that's a faster way to grow your account. But people don't know the real you. There is a balance between growing your audience versus building that high quality connection. So yeah, I think for a while I wasn't really clear about what exactly do I want to do, but I just always knew I wanted to do something on my own. And I just it's like a pendulum. I try to decide, should I do more technical content? Sometimes I do share those things through maybe a guest in my podcast, maybe talk about some machine learning solutions. I talk about those. And then also with AWS, I wrote more technical blogs. I think it's very lucky that I published some blogs with AWS that continue to build my credibility. And then I also share things about soft skills, communication. Maybe around the time I felt a little bit struggle with continue on the influencer route. So I was doing both. I started a coaching course. I realized, oh, when I coach people, even if I make very little money compared to at that time the sponsorship deals I got, but I just felt really passionate about that. Creating content, one is about learning your audience, learning what the market needs. Another thing I feel people don't talk a lot about is to reflect internally. Do you like creating this for your audience? Because I know if I create some AI content today, I think it's what my audience need. I'm sure a lot of my audience buy AI courses from other places, maybe from Shaw. But I realize I just feel I'm not that excited about following the AI news. And I just feel, oh, there are other people doing this. So it's not like the world needs me to create another AI course. I don't feel I can add a unique value to this. But if I talk about personal growth, which is something I feel passionate about, it's also something my audience need, but a lot of them don't know they need. So when I pivot, I think for a while I lost some engagement because your people use the word thought leadership. If you always follow your audience, follow the trend, you are not really a thought leader. Being a leader meaning sometimes you need to go to the path that people are not there yet.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like the thing that came up when you're talking about making content that you like, but also what people need. It kind of reminded me of this one framework for thinking about what do I sell or like what do I do with my life, which is
Right.
basically
Yeah.
like there are like three parts to it. One part is what do people want? Like what does the world need? The second part is what you're good at. And then the third part is like what you like doing. And the ultimate synergy is when you can find something that checks all three of those boxes. So it's something the world needs, it's something you're good at, and it's something you like doing. So like maybe for technical content for you, it was something you had the skills to do. It was something the world needed, but maybe it wasn't something you were super passionate about.
Right.
But when it came to like coaching people on developing their personal brands or personal growth, that was something that you were passionate about. There was a need for it, and it was something you could help them with.
Just to add to that, sometimes I think in the early days of AI, I just really wish, I wish I have that passion for, AI. I kind of wish that like a lot of other AI content creators, I could have that much drive. And then I just feel, oh, that's not my content. That's not that money doesn't belong to me.
That's a good way to put it. I like that.
Yeah.
Talking about money, there was a point where you were working at Amazon and you were making content, but then at one point you left Amazon and you left full-time work to work for yourself. So at what point did you think to yourself, "Oh, I can actually like make a living through content creation or just like make a living on my own?"
It was something pretty strategic because at Amazon, I couldn't create a side business because bigger companies, they have more rules, more controls. So I joined a startup, and a startup, because I'm have more followers than a startup, so it's beneficial for them. I will have agreement. I will help the startup grow their community, and also they allow me to do sponsorship on the side. So basically, it reduces the risk. So I wasn't just quit my job. I want to have this transition. So at a startup, because my connection at industry, I introduced a founder to Andrew Ng's team. Later on, they collaborate a course together with like deep learning AI. So those a lot of things is very hard to measure by a salary, but it generated huge ROI for the company that later on created many courses, right? So with the startup, it allowed me to use those type of connections to create value for a business. But Amazon doesn't need those type of connections, right? They're already big in the industry. So I found this startup. I think it's a great way for me to continue to have a full-time job and explore my own business. And then later on, I started to have a lot of sponsorship requests. So all my sponsorships are inbound. And I also hired a coach to help me with negotiation. So through my entrepreneur journey, I learned so many things from different people. Having a coach really gave me confidence. So he helped me plan, oh, how many deals you need to get so you can have that cash flow for the next 3 months, 6 months. So when I feel, oh, I could have the cash flow for 6 months, and also I have my savings, I feel even if I don't do anything, I could live for like 2-3 years without sacrificing my lifestyle too much. So that's when I feel I can quit my job. And also, the more you get invested in your business, you just feel this internal tug of war, because I feel as a startup, they need to have someone who's very dedicated. So the moment when I realize I'm thinking a lot about my business, it's probably better for them to hire someone else. So I talked to my manager, and he's very supportive. And even after I quit my job, we still have some partnership, and they became one of the sponsors. And so yeah, so when we have that cash flow, kind of that financial security, I don't think you need to plan something too much ahead. I do know people, they just rage quit and then they figure things out. I think for different people, they have different risk tolerance. So before you quit your job, you also need to, so a lot of about finance, entrepreneurship is about psychology, and someone else's risk tolerance might be different from yours. Are you very conservative? I think I'm not the most conservative, but I'm pretty much on the conservative side. And are you okay with taking a lot of risk? Or maybe, I also know people move back to live with their parents. I think that's totally cool. So do you have those type of safety nets? And that was how I made the decision.
Oh, that's super insightful. So you left Amazon, but you didn't just go all on your own. At that point, you went to the startup where you could actually start building up your business on the side because they gave you more flexibility. I want to tap into the brand deals and kind of get into the details of how that was working back then. But what was interesting, what you said, is that you wanted to have cash flow plus like 2 or 3 years of runway before you felt comfortable kind of taking the leap. I guess I have a bit more of a risk appetite because I had 12 months of savings, but no cash flow. And like I took the leap. And I feel like there are people, how you described, they just rage quit and maybe they have like 3 months worth of savings and then they figure it out.
Yeah.
But I am curious a little bit of like the tactical side of the brand deal. So at this point, well, you're working full time and then on the side you were doing these brand deals. So you're saying that all the deals would come inbound. What were they asking you to do? Like, was it like post on LinkedIn, do blog posts, do something else?
Yeah. So there are some people asking me to do blog posts, but also they don't pay a lot for blog posts. And also blog posts takes a lot of time. So I should never say yes to blog posts. Mostly it's about LinkedIn posts. They want to promote some events. So I'm also very selective what brand I take. So I generally don't collaborate with like pre-seed or too early stage, because I don't want my audience to invest in the tool and then this tool is gone. Unless they're hosting some educational events. Most of the companies I collaborate with are Series B or later. Or they're like bigger companies like NVIDIA. Some of them are LinkedIn, and also having a podcast helps. So I can sell a package. I will collaborate with you on a podcast. So you have someone on your company on the show. We can talk about this person's career journey. So I tell them, hey, this is how the show is about. I don't just talk about the technical stuff. I like to talk about the person's career journey. And then we can talk about some technical stuff related to your product or company. So I always tell them, even if they don't buy your product or sign up, I want my audience to learn something. And I feel a lot of marketing team in startup now these days, they get influencer marketing. So actually they're very collaborative. A lot of them ask me, hey, what do you want to talk about? What do your audience want to know? Let's talk more about like career stuff. So I really appreciate it. So it made me easier to collaborate and create content for them. So you can call them a sponsor. I do see more of a partnership because they also invest in the content creation, but it's not like 100% is that. And also sometimes you do need to go out, find new sponsors. And this business is very sensitive to economy. So because a lot of my clients are startup, I think maybe 2 years ago, there was a time, I think after 2020, it was very easy for them to raise money. So they have the budget. And then there was a time when they were they were very conservative, and it was hard for them to allocate a budget. And I also realized when you enter this business at a good time, you just thought, oh, this will continue next year, I will double this revenue. You don't realize, I think for anything, if you invest in the stock market, you only get to know the reality after you experience one crash, one cycle. Yeah, so that's also another reason I realized, oh, I need to have my own product. Kind of, one is I want to do coaching, have my own courses. One is related to, I'm very passionate about that. Another thing is realize I need to hedge this risk so I don't have to depend on other people's budget.
Okay, that makes sense because you were mainly relying on inbound leads for the
Yeah.
partnerships, and there is this seasonality to when your customers were ready to invest. It was kind of unpredictable, like your cash flow was unpredictable. So
Right.
I want to talk about that next stage of your journey. So you move on from working at the startup to working completely for yourself. So at that point, was it just all in on partnerships? And then like, how did that evolve to what you're doing now with the coaching?
So when I just quit my job, I was all in doing partnerships because I would say most of the time in the beginning, I enjoyed it until I realized, oh, I'm in a lot of meetings. That you need to negotiate deals, talk about the contracts. Those are the things I don't enjoy. So ideally, you can find someone to do that for you, but it's very tricky because a lot of content I need to create is very technical. So, for example, if you just hire a salesperson, they don't understand how machine learning content or what is a GitHub. It's very hard. Very hard to do that. I think maybe some people solve that, but I wasn't able to do that at that time. But before I did that, while I was still at a startup, I did my first data science career accelerator. I tested the idea for a 2-day course. So it was on a weekend from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Yeah, it was very intense. I wanted to see whether someone would buy from me or do I enjoy coaching. So although I was mostly focusing on sponsorship partnerships at that time, I knew I could also go the coaching route. So later on when I decided to pivot, I knew I already tried something. So if you have a job, if your employer allow you to do some small business, try different type of ideas in advance. I think that also give you a lot of confidence later on. You don't have to go in survival mode when one road is closed.
So you did try the kind of coaching early on, like while you're
Yeah.
still at the startup. So what was the transition? So you're doing these full-time brand partnerships, but then at a certain point, you realize that you don't really enjoy doing this work that much. What was the timeline and what was that transition like from steering the ship from, okay, we're going down this partnership, kind of the typical influencer route to this different way of doing it?
I think the partnerships I did was around mid-September.
Okay.
And there was 3 months I got a lot of deals, so I quit the job. But before that, there was also a few deals here and there. So I quit my job September 2023, and then I
Okay.
continued to do that for another 3-4 months, and then I felt, oh, I need to pause. So that's when I paused the data scientist show, the podcast.
Mm.
After I paused, I still have a few inbound deals. I continue to work with a few companies that really, really respect my audience, very collaborative, and they become kind of repeating customers. So I still have some revenue for the partnership in 2024, but most of the time I joined someone else coaching program. I want to understand more about myself, especially I had a lot of anxiety about, because sometimes you make 10K in a week, sometimes you make zero in a month. So there was a lot of fears and insecurities. So I spent a few months kind of working on my own psychology mindset. It sounds kind of fluffy, but it was very useful. And after that, it gave me some clarity. It's very important to stop doing things sometimes. I realized, I want to do coaching, and so I took maybe 4 or 5 months break, and then last year 2024.
Yeah, it was.
I feel like when you're in like the founder year, sometimes you don't remember things. So
They call
last
it
year,
founder's amnesia.
oh really? Is that a thing?
No, I just made it up.
Oh, okay. I think it is a thing. And last year, so probably about a year ago, I restarted the data science career course, but I expanded that to a 4-week program, and then I launched 4 or 5 of them, and been really enjoy doing that. And through that, I think every time you do something, you discover something new. I also realized a lot of people I coach ask me about personal branding. And also with AI, I feel like I'm not doing anything directly related to AI, but I am helping people gaining different skills, making them more robust in the future job market. Because companies don't want to admit that, oh, AI will take your job. I kind of don't buy into this AI will not take your job, someone use AI will take your job bullshit, right? Because I don't think AI will very accurately take your job, but the companies will reduce the size of the team, and what happened to the people they laid off. That's why I'm excited about helping people find their niche. And it's not just about building having a lot of followers, have the being loud online. It's about finding what you want to do, what's your strength. Because when we are in a company, it's very easy to optimize your life around a promotion, a raise, another job. So we don't really have time to think about what do I actually enjoy doing, what is going to be my niche. If I need to create a product out of myself, what is it going to be? So I think the personal branding, how to go viral on LinkedIn, is only the surface layer of my coaching. So what I'm actually passionate about, what I think people need is, because you need to have that, and in order to come out with content, you need to understand more about yourself. What do you know? What do other people know? What resonate with your audience? Like, what is your persona? What is your vibe online? And that's like the deeper layer of what I'm doing with the current coaching courses.
Yeah, so it's just helping people figure out what they want to be when they grow up, basically.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you were saying, it's once you get into a company, it's easy to optimize your life around the company's values and internal configuration, as opposed to your own values and
Yeah.
the things that you care about. And so I feel like it's an underdeveloped skill for a lot of people, and you've kind of been forced to learn that skill. And maybe during that 4 or 5 month hiatus is when you had a lot of opportunity for reflection to actually figure out, okay, what do I care about and what do I want to do with my life? Like, that's what I love about entrepreneurship. It's like you can do anything. Like, once you realize like you can live whatever life that you want to live, maybe it's kind of scary for people because like now you have to like figure out how to create that life and put a lot of work into it. And maybe the hardest part is just figuring out like what direction to go in and what you want your life to be like. So I do feel like there is a lot of need for the type of thing that you're describing. But I got a couple more questions here. This one's kind of more retrospective. If you could go back to Daliana, I don't know whether she was at Amazon or she was at the startup, what is one piece of advice that you would give to that past version of yourself?
What is the one piece of advice I'll give my past version of myself? I would tell her to worry less, to have more fun with the content, because I do feel the anxiety, especially early days. I think not early days. I think from 10 to 0 to 10K is really fun. 10K maybe to 100K is like, oh, I want to see if I can get to 100K. But then 100K to 200K is like, oh, I got to do this again. You kind of get lost. I think after 200K, I just feel like, oh, I'm not going to chase this number. It doesn't really mean anything for me. I would tell myself to worry less. But on the flip side, I do feel sometimes fear and anxiety drives us. So without those fear and anxiety, I also wouldn't be here today. So, in a world we all talk about positivity, peace. I feel if you do have that fear, you feel jealous of your coworker getting opportunities because they have more followers than you. I think you can use that, but it's not going to be sustainable. I think it's okay to let that negative emotion, the darkness, drive you a little bit, and then when you feel it doesn't work anymore, it will naturally shift you to a different state when you realize you need to find your passion and feel more peaceful about it. And also now a lot of big content creators you see, including myself, I now have people that help me. I have people help me creating visuals. I have editors sometimes help me come out with the openers, help me, proofread. So don't compare yourself to someone who have already done this for many years, and just compare it to maybe yourself 5 days ago. And also don't need to feel, oh, they have to be super polished, etc.
I think the comparison is a big one. I guess it kind of is that double-edged sword. Like, it's when you compare yourself to someone who's like way ahead of you, it does boil up those negative emotions. Maybe you channel it into a positive direction.
Yeah.
But also it may not be productive a lot of the time. And I do resonate a lot with just comparing yourself to a past version of yourself, because that's going to be the greatest indicator of your growth. I did have one more question, but we are getting a couple in the chat, so maybe we can transition to the audience Q&A, and then we can come back to my questions if there's time. So Kong asked, what are some key business metrics every data scientist or ML engineer should understand deeply regardless of domain?
I will first answer that from the context. If you are a IC employee, this is a question that you should ask your stakeholder. I think there are two set of metrics. One is the technical side, accuracy, right? I don't know. It's like whatever score metrics. And then on the precision, recall, stuff like that. And then on the business side, is it about a click-through rate, how much money you make, how much time you have the business saved? So at the end of the day, you want to balance the technical metrics and the business metric. I think a lot of time data scientists stuck in that technical metric. So maybe your accuracy is 70%, but it's good enough for the business. Maybe another thing is to really understand the baseline. Maybe their baseline is 40%. So you already made the difference.
Kong had another question. What are the most common communication mistakes technical professionals make in stakeholder meetings? So I guess maybe this is a good, this more in the context of ICs and companies.
I guess I could talk about this for another hour. There was the one module in the career accelerator. So if I could, give you like a summary, it would be to think about what do they care about. A lot of people go in, talk about, oh, I built this model. Especially they talk about their model in a way that, oh, I tried this, I tried that, but the business don't care about what you have tried. They care about your insights. What is that tagline? So this is very similar to content creation. When you create content, don't just go in with that stream of consciousness. What is the one thing that you will make people pause scrolling and look at your content? The same thing you need to think about going to that stakeholder meeting. What do they really care about? If you don't know this question and you feel you have to find out this question in the meeting, you already kind of failed. You need to find out, have that one-on-one communication with the stakeholder, or someone works in the stakeholders team, maybe a data scientist, a tech person on the stakeholders team. If the stakeholders non-tech, right? You need to discover this before this meeting.
I like that analogy between like content creation and just general communication. You can't just go in and just start riffing and, oh, then I've tried this experiment, then it didn't work, so I went to this one, and just like meandered around, like kind of get it to the point, give the hook, tell the story, and save people some time. This one's actually from our Discord. They're asking about like the different ways you monetize your audience. So we talked about a few different ways, like brand partnerships. We talked about your data science accelerator. We talked about the coaching program that you're working on now. Is there anything else?
That's pretty much it. Most of the content creators I know, especially tech content creators, from those two revenues. One is courses, product services, or sponsorship. Some of them also organize conference. So basically, this is something I haven't been doing. So basically, I think conference is following the education, but it's more like you create this experience. You charge people. Some people charge for a community. This is something I haven't done yet.
And I guess maybe you did like indirect when you got the job at the startup? You know, it wasn't like directly like doing the content in exchange for money, but it was they hired you because of your audience and the opportunity to promote the business.
Yeah, this is a great point. So you can also think of it, maybe someone enjoy working in a company. I don't think there's anything wrong about that. So you can become a technical marketing person at a startup. Maybe you really care about, say, Hugging Face, because you have an audience. You can find a job in Hugging Face. I think that's also a great way. And also around that time, so I knew if this whole thing doesn't work out, I can also go back. There's a VC reach out to me. There are AI focused VC. I'm not going to mention the name, but there are a lot of very famous investors, researchers there. They asked me to join their fund to help them build a community for entrepreneurs. So I actually thought about it for a while. I met everyone on the team. You get to work with very prestige, a fund, people. You get invited to those events, but it was a hard decision. In the end, I realized, I just really want to try doing things on my own. So you
Well,
have a lot of opportunities came to you without you can imagine. So I didn't know those type of things exist. I didn't know you can work for a fund as a kind of, they call it platform, kind of, you're in the operation role. So I'm not an investor.
it sounds like a developer relations community kind of engagement role. I feel like a lot of startups are hiring that pretty early. Like a couple startups had reached out to me about things like that, and like
Yeah.
they pay really well.
Yeah.
Like they were offering like $300,000-$400,000 for
Oh, wow.
just
Yeah, I'm curious
getting
why
trained.
you turn it down.
Same reason as you. Like I wanted
Yeah.
to build something
Yeah.
on my own. But yeah, I feel like that fund must have been a pretty big decision, given like a lot of big names. It seems like a lot of
Yeah,
big
and
names.
it's not easy for them to find someone like us.
Right.
So I don't think they have filled in that role when I turn it down, because you need to find someone who have an audience, has that social skills, communication skills, and also technical skills. So it's like it's not that hard to find.
It's hard to find technical people that know how to talk to people. Okay, so we did skip a question from Warren Wales. He says, I want to learn more about how you learned / learn to catch people's attention and keeping people and getting people to take action that you want them to take. So I guess like copywriting, like making posts that get people's
Yeah.
attention and drive action.
So I took a lot of courses. So back in the days when I started to write a Medium blog, there was actually another story before I wrote a Medium blog. Sean, you may know, I talk about this in the course. I created the first internal newsletter for my team at Amazon. So I created a 1,000 people. I grew that newsletter to 1,000 people at work. So sharing insights about A/B testing. So from that time, I started to read about how to write. And there's always a big part about how to create a title of the email similar to what is the first sentence of your LinkedIn post. What is going to be the thumbnail for a YouTube shot? You might know we might spend 30%, sometimes even 50%, just to think about that. That's not the part I enjoy the most. But again, people do judge a book by its cover. And if you're not able to drive them in, they're not going to discover your content. And to your question, I think, again, that's like a really big topic. That's like something we teach in the course, to give you something you can use right away. Social media is about emotions. So can you create something that make people feel curious, they want to click in? So and a little bit shock factor. But again, you need to be careful, because we know anger, negative emotions always travel faster. But do you want to have a audience always, feel angry about your content? You just think about Twitter, right? Like after the recent election, so marketing or newspaper companies really love the cycle of election, because people have more fear, more anxiety. They click into the news. So That's good for their ads placement. So if their business model is click per pay, they make a lot of money. However, for tech content creators, that's most of it, that's not our model. So on the contrary, can you create some content that maybe explain a concept that's very hard for people to understand, but you make it so easy, and when people look at your post, they just feel, wow, you said this so well. So if you can help people create that feeling, that's easier to grab people's attention instead of just say Python is dead. It can get you some attention, but after a while, you're going to lose people's trust. So there's always this balance between credibility and the engagement.
Yeah, I feel like this kind of thread of like, I'll talk about YouTube because that's what I'm more familiar with. The thumbnail has to be good because if people don't click on the thumbnail, it doesn't matter how amazing your video is. Like you could be giving away like the cure to cancer and like all these amazing things,
Yeah.
like teaching people how to become billionaires. But if your thumbnail sucks, someone's going to click on it.
Yeah.
So I should spend more time on my thumbnails. I don't. I need to. But then the other thing is everyone knows clickbait on YouTube and people get very upset about it. Like you need the thumbnail to match the content of the video. And the same thing goes to like LinkedIn posts. So if you say like Python is dead in the above the fold, but then people click on it, you say, haha, just kidding. Like everyone's going to get pissed off, and then they're not going to click on your post in the future. So yeah, there's a lot of psychology.
Yeah, it's like you're catfishing your audience.
That's a good way to put it. All right, let's see. Dimitri asked, if you had to start over today and build up a following like you have right now, what would you do in the first 90 days?
I'll probably do the same thing as how I started. So when I first started, I just thought I made a goal to post once a week. And I thought it was so hard. I don't know. What do I write every week? But at that time, I set a goal for myself to have 10,000 followers by the end of the year. And I think in September, I have maybe 2,000 followers. So I made a decision to post every day. So I forced myself to write something, after work around 5 or 6, I'll come up with something. So, around that time, that's what I mentioned. Sometimes I felt very anxious around 5. I haven't wrote something yet, but there are a lot of posts I only wrote for 15 minutes or even 30 minutes. I didn't think that much. I closed my laptop. I took a walk. I went for a walk. It went viral. So when you set goals like that, it forces you to write, to think. It's just like how you train your machine learning model, right? You don't want the metric to be too sensitive to a new data point. Similarly, when your post doesn't gain a lot of engagement, don't feel like, oh, my audience don't like this, so I shouldn't talk about this again. So what I recommended to my student is try this again after a week, change the format, change the opening line, experiment. So I think in the first 90 days, just post, play with it. Also find another thing is find the people you like and to see if there's some format that resonate with you, you can reuse that format, reuse that topic. Maybe someone talk about how they got into AI or 3 mistakes they made. You can just steal that topic. It's not stealing. I mean, we're all talking about the same thing, but your story is different from this person. So that you're like kind of model on other person a little bit.
Yeah, that's really good. I think just showing up is like the most important thing. Just like post every week or post every day, depending on what's realistic for you. And then that second point of like stealing templates. My most viral LinkedIn post ever that was like copied multiple times, like verbatim. People just like copy paste the post. It's pretty funny. But I stole that hook from someone. It was like 10 YouTube channels that will teach you more in 2025 than a 4-year college degree. All I did was plug AI into it as like 10 AI YouTube channels. And I just talked about the YouTube channels that I enjoy. And then that went super viral. So, and that was also one of those things I didn't know. I kind of posted it, went for a walk, and I came back and I was like, oh, well, okay, this kind of blew up. What would you say after 10,000 followers or any numbers, things change? Yeah, so I don't know. Is there any like kind of like scaling law, any emergent properties of like follower count where like, oh, once you hit this threshold, it's like a whole different game, or is it just the same grind no matter what?
I do notice I start to, you might notice even when you have two shot, like when you have 2,000, 3,000, sometimes there's still not much engagement for comments. What I notice is around 5K followers, I start to have more comments. Some comments, sometimes I feel like this post only have 10 likes, but maybe I'll have 5 very interesting comments that made me feel good. I think around that time I just feel, oh, this is fun. Like strangers leave comment. It's not just well said. They actually, sometimes people write paragraphs of their experiences. That just make me feel, oh, this is so interesting. I got addicted a little bit. Things change. And also people, maybe other content creators notice you. They start to have people invite me to go on podcasts, do panels, give a talk, etc.
Okay, so people commenting more, I have noticed that. I don't know like at what point that started
Mm.
happening more, and then also the podcast invites. That's another thing. I don't know. Is there anything beyond? I'm only at like what is it like 10 or 12,000 on LinkedIn. Is there
Okay.
anything that happened at 50, at 100, 200? Did you get invited to like steak dinners or anything like that?
Oh, not steak dinner yet. Oh, recently, actually, I was invited to some dinner hosted by Intel.
Oh, that's fun.
So they're
Yeah.
like companies like Intel, IBM, or I don't know. Not usually. I feel like fan companies don't do
Mm.
that, but there are some companies that are more invested in influencer marketing. They might invite you to network with other people, and you also feel that if you are invited to those events, you don't have to sell yourself that much to network. People already know who you are, and yeah, it feels nice to
I
have
love
this,
that.
to have that chip on the shoulder.
Yeah, I want to actually do that with the data entrepreneurs. Like, I'm
Mhm.
going to be traveling in Europe and then a bit. So I don't know, maybe I'll host some steak dinners or something like that.
Yeah,
If I
yeah,
can catch you, I don't know. You're always traveling. If I can catch you in the one of these cities, we can.
yeah.
I'll invite you. We'll make this the last question. So this is from the Discord again. They're asking about your mindset when you started your journey. I don't know, like where were you at mentally at the beginning of like going back to the Amazon days? What was your
Yeah.
mindset?
I don't quite remember. It was a mix of a lot of things. The mindset was when I joined Amazon, or maybe when I was a teenager, I always feel I wanted to be an entrepreneur. But I also like to write when I was in school, but I didn't write technical stuff. I just write essays. I like to write journals, right? So if you look at my content these days, actually, I talk a lot about my feelings, emotions. So sometimes I just feel, oh, I'm already living my childhood dream. I'm a writer. When I joined Amazon, I always knew this might be the mindset that different from a lot of people. I always knew I won't retire at Amazon. And I feel working at a company, it feels like a postdoc for me. Have you done a postdoc, Shaw?
I haven't, but I
Oh,
did have a similar experience. Like when I worked at Toyota, it kind of felt like a postdoc of sorts.
yeah. I just always feel like, okay, I want to get a promotion because I love sharing people. I like helping people. So one of my motivation to get a promotion is because I struggled in my early career. Also, my first year at Amazon, I didn't know how to stand out. I felt, oh, if someone like me who can become a senior data scientist in Amazon, and I'm going to share my secret, what I have seen, how I got here with a lot of people. And also, I felt if I got to a senior data scientist, which I don't know whether it's true or not. I just felt like after I quit my job, I have more credibility. I do think having a senior title helps me with credibility, but maybe that's a limiting belief. I do feel if people see you creating a lot of value, it doesn't really matter whether you worked at FAN or whether you're a senior person. But again, for people who don't know you, those titles I think make it a little bit easier for people to trust you. So my mindset was I want to learn as much as I can, and I want to meet a lot of smart people, and I also want to decide at a certain point I want to leave here. It feels like a postdoc slash business school. So that was my mindset, which I think even if some people always want to stay in a big company, I think it's helpful to just think about your career as a business. Think of your life from a product manager's perspective.
I like that. So thinking more on how you provide value to the world and how you can kind of monetize yourself rather than thinking how you can like climb a particular org chart, for example.
Yeah, which I did think, oh, maybe I will become a VP and then I quit my job. But then
Mm.
this kind of ladder become closer and closer. I was like, okay, I'll quit my job maybe after I become a senior data scientist or at that time, actually, I wanted to become a manager for a few years. I didn't quit my job. But then I did try being a manager for a couple months. I didn't really enjoy that part of managing people in a big company. So I think if you're at a company, try to learn as much as you can, work with a lot of smart people. A lot of people think, going on the tangent here. So around the time when I read internal newsletter, I used my weekend. I pay out of my pocket. I didn't even think, oh, that's related to my job. I can get expense. I spend, thousands of dollars learning how to write. So a lot of people might think, oh, you're like so stupid. You're using your own time. There's no work-life balance. But how I think about it is, wow, I get paid to learn a lot of things, to work with all the smart people that otherwise I would never be able to meet. So I feel that's the reason why I say it's like a postdoc. You get paid to do the things you love and learn things, or like a mini MBA. I just feel I want to use this opportunity to learn. Also, if you have this mindset to learn, it also make you feel more motivated in your 9 to 5.
I resonate with that. Like, I guess when I felt the learning starting to slow down is when I started to think about
Yeah.
jumping ship. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good way to think about it. Well, Daliana, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing all your insights and talking about your journey. Thank you for everyone that joined us live and asked the great questions in the chat. So we will have another podcast in a couple of weeks where Manny is going to be talking about cold outreach for AI consultants. So that was a highly demanded topic in the Discord. So if you're interested in that, you can register for that on our Luma channel. Daliana, thanks again, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Take
Thank
care.
you, Shao. Thanks, everyone.